जय गोपीजनवल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारि यमुनातीरावनचारि जय राधमाधव जय कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधमाधव जय कुञ्ज बिहारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारि यमुनातीरावनचारि जय राधमाधव जय कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधमाधव जय कुञ्ज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Same screen. To sharing the right screen. So we will read from Prabhupada Leelamrita, and it is from chapter 28. Just 2 weeks ago, when Prabhupada had been staying at his sister's house, his health had prevented him from going to North Calcutta to see the deity, so he had gone to Navadvipa without taking their blessings. But now, although still weak and although preoccupied with traveling to the US, he felt that the deity was calling him. For the past 150 years, the Radha Govind temple had been maintained by the aristocratic Muliks, a branch of Prabhupada's own family. The Muliks had owned the entire block of Harrison Road, now Mahatma Gandhi Road, and rents from the block long building opposite the temple had financed the opulent worship of Radha Krishna Govinda. In those days, the deities had been worshipped on a gorgeous altar in the large Kirtana hall, and they had been dressed in silks and ornamented with gilded and bejeweled crowns and necklaces. All the pious Vaishnava families of the neighborhood would visit, and on Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday, even British gentlemen and ladies would come. But today, the Mulik families possessed only remnants of the European art and furnishing that had once filled their homes and temple. Relies from an age of former grandeur, and the worship of Radha Govinda had pitifully deteriorated. Srila Prabhupada was pained to see the neglect. No longer were Radha and Govinda the center of the Mulik's lives. The deity worship still continued, conducted by paid brahmanas. But few people came to see. The main attraction now was the golden deity of the goddess Kali on the large altar in the Kirtana hall. Radha and Krishna in the family for many generations had been relegated to a small upstairs room in the Mulik compound. Their dress was no longer elegant, their valuable crowns and ornaments had disappeared, and there were no large kirtanas as before. Only a paid brahmana came in the morning to rub sandalwood pump on their shining bodies, dress them carefully in whatever simple clothes remained, and place jasmine garlands around their necks, while a widow or two watched the silent proceeding. The Krishna consciousness was dying in India, dying from neglect. At least it was dying here in Calcutta and in many other places in India. Even in Vrindavana, the impersonal philosophy prevailed, and grand old temples had become residence for pigeons, monkeys, and dogs. Sad as it was, it only reinforced Prabhupada's conviction of the need to return to the fertile ground in the West. Although here in India the spirit of devotion was dying, in the West it was just beginning to grow. In New York, San Francisco, Montreal, and Boston. If pure Krishna consciousness was dying in India, then why shouldn't it be transplanted in the fertile West? There it would flourish. It would spread worldwide and even back to India again. When India, bent on following the West, saw the materially advanced Americans taking to Krishna consciousness, she would re-evaluate her own culture. Prabhupada saw a Krishna conscious revolution beginning in the United States. He didn't consider himself its creator, he was the servant of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya's desire was that every Indian help to spread Krishna consciousness worldwide. Unfortunately, the very verse in the scriptures that professed a worldwide Krishna consciousness movement were a puzzle, even to most of Srila Prabhupada's God brothers. They admitted it. But soon they would see there was great potential in the West. Prabhupada had shown many of his god brothers the newspaper articles. Swami's block chanting in Tompkins Square Park, ancient trance dance at Stanford University, and he had brought some disciples with him. These were only beginnings, much more had to be done. And who would help? BP Keshava Maharaj was dying. Sridhara Maharaj couldn't come out. Who else? Most Indians were impersonalists, non-devotional yogis, or demigods worshipper. As Srila Prabhupada stood before the Radha Govinda deity, explaining to Achyuta and Ramanuja now he had worshipped them in his childhood and how they had been his first inspiration in Krishna consciousness. He understood deeply that he must take Krishna consciousness all over the world, even if single handedly. Of course, he was not alone. He had disciples, and they were opening new centers even in his absence. He would have to return to them very soon and supervise his growing movement. The Mulik regarded Prabhupada more as a relative than as a spiritual leader. To them, he was a hometown cousin who had done something successful in America. Narendranath Mulik, a childhood friend of Prabhupada's, called Prabhupada's Dada brother and regularly joked with him. The Muliks were glad to give Prabhupada and his two followers a large room in the temple compound for as long as they wanted to stay in Calcutta. Prabhupada set up his usual arrangement, a mat on the floor, a low table for a desk, and beside the desk his few possessions. Here he could study and write, receive guests, or rest. Daily, some local woman brought Prabhupada and his disciples simple prasadam in a tiffin. We'll stop there and we'll move on to today's verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So today's verse is from Canto 5, Chapter 2, and verse number 17. श्रीसुख उवाच इति लालानुनायति विशरदो ग्राम्यवेदाध्यायाय परिभाषाय तं विबुधावधुं विबुधामतिरधिसभजायमश. श्रीसुख उवाच इति लालानुनान्यन्ति विशारदो ग्राम्यवेदाध्यायाय परिभाषाय तां विबुधावधुं विबुधामते अधिसाभजयामश. श्रीसुख उवाच इति लालानानुनयति विशर्दो ग्राम्यवेदज्ञयाय परिभाषाय तां विबुधवधुं विबुधमते अधिसाभजयम् अश. Anybody would like to recite this verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam, Prabhuji.
Sri Shuka Uvacha Iti Lalana Anunayati Visharada Gramma Vaidagdayaya Paribhashaya Tam Vibhuda Vibhudum Vibhuda Matir Abhishajayam Asha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Yes,
Sri
sir.
Shuko Uvacha Iti Lalananuati Visharado Gramma Vaidagdaya Paribhashaya Tamo Vibhuda Bodhum Vibhuda Motir Odhi Shobha Jayamashoho. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Sri Shuko Uvacha Iti Lalonanu Noyati Visharado Grammo Vaidagdhaya Paribhashaya Tam Vibhuda Bodhum Vibhuda Motir Odhi Shobha Jayamasho. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I am also trying.
Dandavad Pranam, Mataji.
Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Ralananu Noyati Visharado Grammo Vaidagdhaya Paribhashaya Tang Vibudha Bodhum Vibudha Motir Odhi Sabha Jaya Masha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam.
Shri Sukhuvacha इति ललानानुनयाति विशारदो ग्राम्या वैदग्ध्यया परिभाषयातां विबुद्धवत् वधूं विबुद्धमतिराधीशभाजयामाश. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we'll move toward translation. Sri Sukha Uvacha, Sukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Lalana, woman, Anunaya, in winning over, Ati Visharada, very expert, Gramya Veda Dhayaya, expert in fulfilling one's material desire, Paribhashaya, by selected words, Tam, her, Vibhuda Vadum, the celestial girl, Vibhudamati, Agnidra, who possess intelligence like that of the demigod, Adhi Sabha Jayam Asha, gained the favor of. Anybody would like to read the translation and purport?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
Shukdev Goswami continued, Maharaja Agnidra, whose intelligence was like that of a demigod, knew the art of flattering women to win them on his side. He therefore pleased that celestial girls with his lusty words and gained her favor. Since King Agnidra was a devotee, he actually had no attraction for material enjoyment. But because he wanted sorry, a wife for progeny and Lord Brahma had sent Purvachitti for this purpose, he expertly pleased her with flattering words. Women are attracted by men's flattering words. One who is expert in this art of flattering is called Vidagdha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Praveen. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnanam Janashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते वेदास्मै स्वामीति नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नाम्ने नमस्ते प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य सतायने जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे all right so for today's chapter I want to stop sharing. Just wondering, how do I stop sharing? You like that? Yeah. So, in this chapter, we have seen that The character of Maharaj Agnidhara is described here in this chapter. And when Maharaj Priyavrata went off for a spiritual realization, his son Agnidhara, the ruler of Jambudvipa, he, as per the instructions of his father, he maintained its resident with the same affection as his father, and same affection as a father feels for the son. So he was a good king. He was a great king. So once Maharaj Agnidhara desired to have a son, and therefore he entered a cave. So then we know the story that he entered the cave of Mandara mountain to practice austerity. So when he was practicing austerity, understanding his desire, Lord Brahma sent a celestial girl, Purvachiti, to Agnidhara's hermitage. So after when she went there and presented herself, uh, the Agnidhara was naturally attracted. So then he used his technique of flattery languages, which pleased her, and that's how they got married. And then he got 9 sons from his wife. So here few things are mentioned that Agnidhara used flattery words to please um, Purvachiti, and there have been, like, it is mentioned that you can use these language, which is called flattery words or tools of appreciation. It is of many types in this material world. It's just like how when it was love in spiritual world, but then as the soul gets in contact with the material nature, it becomes lust. So similarly, some of these techniques can be used for material purpose and can be used for spiritual purpose as well. In this case, he desired to have Krishna conscious children. So that's why it said, as it said in Bhagavad Gita, that that sex life which is for the to beget children is not contrary to the religious principle. So he was still within the religious principle, following the dharma. But when we talk about the flattery types, there are few types. There are types like used for romantic flattery, which is used to win over a partner or gaining affection and intimacy. So those are basically very much into the material terms. But then we see that there are political ones, there are social flattery, and there are spiritual appreciation. So for political wise, if we go there, usually why would people appreciate in terms of politician is to win over a political figure or to gain support and influence. People use these technique in social environment to make friends or gain some social acceptance, build relationship. And then there is spiritual way where these same technique can be used, where people can win over a spiritual leader or a devotee. They can use this same technique to build relationship with devotees, gaining spiritual guidance or acceptance. So there are 3 types of spiritual prayers which devotees does. So appreciation is a powerful tool. It should be used, but if it can be used for a spiritual purpose, then it becomes a positive note. So it can be used for positive or it can be used for negative. Even for social purpose, political purpose, for material needs, it can be used for positive or for negative purpose. So the main thing is that to be aware that it is used for ethical reasons. So the three types that is of spiritual prayers says Daina Bodhika, Pratmitika, and Lal Samai. So one is expressing one's fallen position when they are appreciating or showing gratitude. Then they glorify the Lord or Lord's devotees, and then is asking for something. So, as we said, there's spiritual appreciation is that when you express your fallen position, you glorify the devotee or the Lord and ask Lord for the mercy or for spiritual guidance. So that is where we can use this technique for spiritual advancement. And we see through Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many examples. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam is based on where devotees are appreciating each other and glorifying the Lord. So, like, there are examples where Parikshit Maharaj is glorifying Sukdev Goswami, Arjuna is glorifying Krishna when we read Bhagavad Gita. Vidura is glorifying Maitri Muni. And then we see King Raghuguna is glorifying Jadabharat. So there are many examples in Bhagavatam where this technique is used for spiritual advancement and to build stronger relationship with devotees. So in this section, speaker is talking about how King Agnidhara is using this technique to build relationship with the celestial world and gain a son that he is after. So some people might think that why this is explained here, why in Bhagavatam these sort of topics are mentioning, or this verse is in going in certain way. So it's quite important to understand that Srimad Bhagavatam, or whatever is in Srimad Bhagavatam, is perfect because it is Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puranam. So not a single word is irrelevant or misplaced in here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that every verse has got unlimited meanings and it has got unlimited benefits that we have got in there. Because it is based on the language Sanskrit, which is a perfect language. We have lots of other language, unlike ordinary language. But the sound of Sanskrit is perfect, and that's why the Bhagavatam sounds are perfect. Now, when we may think about what does this perfect sound means and non-perfect sound means, then it basically which sound is spiritual and which sound is on the material platform. So everything that is in the Bhagavatam is on spiritual platform. Like in material platform, when we talk about sound, we talk about sound in the waves, as we only interpret sound as the waves in the air. So, and that air, it just gets vibrated into our ears and then we hear something. Not necessarily that is the only sound, because there are lots of sound. Sound is called, there are type of conventional sound and there are beyond the conventional sound. So it doesn't mean that if we heard a sound, we have actually heard something. Suppose, for example, if we talk about as an example, like it should have some meaning. Some sound, you just hear it and it has no information. Some sound where the information and the sound itself will come to it. So that is perfect sound, where the information and the sound has got meaning. It is making some sense to it. Like if somebody is playing mridanga, if somebody has no knowledge of mridanga, no knowledge of what tal is being played, they will just hear it as, oh, some beats are being played. But when somebody actually have knowledge of mridanga, they will know, oh, actually this beats is being played, or that particular beat is being played. So you can have a bit more information, and you can actually interpret that sound in a much deeper way. Just like, for example, of writing as well, if on a paper there are lots of black scribbles, and somebody who can't read that particular language will think it's just some sort of pattern in the paper. But if somebody can actually understand and say, oh, okay, this is Sanskrit written in it, and they can read it and they can understand it, then it will have a meaning to it. It will actually, that same sound will give some information to it. So that's what is the key, that we need to understand the information. So in Sanskrit, everything is identical with the sound. So in para, it is said that the object and the sound, there's no difference between the object and the sound. Like, I'll give you example of two different things. It is like in material world, we call something like this laptop. We call it as a laptop. But that laptop and the sound is not connected. But for just for our reference, for our understanding, whoever understands this language, we know that, oh, laptop means this thing, but not necessarily that sound laptop is connected to the laptop itself. But in para sound, which is the spiritual sound, where the sound and the object is same. So when we say Krishna, then the word Krishna and Krishna himself, the sound, and Krishna is non-different. That's why we say that there is no difference between the spiritual world, is actually based on this type of reality. So when we go to a spiritual world, when we say something, it will appear. So that's why the sound and that object is so much linked, which we don't see in this material world. And that is why that's the importance of the holy name, that the sound is so perfect. The holy name, the Bhagavatam sounds are just so perfect that it can uplift us to the higher level. So, in the fifth chapter, we see that he wanted, so why we are thinking why he did that, because he wanted to produce a child. He was performing in that sense of a duty. If we go back to the Bhagavatam, that why this pastime is happening. Even in Kardavani, he was also a Prajapati, and he produced a son like Kapila, Lord Kapila. And then he's also asked to produce, because he was a Prajapati, and he had a certain kind of tendencies, certain. So basically what I'm trying to say is that when certain things are done for a higher purpose or a higher duty, then it becomes perfect, or it becomes spiritual. Like what we hear, then there's one more point I wanted to mention about Prabhupada suggesting, because somebody was asking that, okay, we can use Krishna consciousness techniques to become a great devotee. So why Krishna? Why do we believe that Krishna is supreme? So they gave an example of Lord Rama worshipping Krishna. So then who is the devotee and who is the worshipper? So Prabhupada gave example of Yashodamai, that if Yashodamai is chastising Krishna and Krishna is scared of Yashodamai, then now who is worshipper and who is the supreme? So this is what happens with Krishna, that Krishna is personal. So he becomes subservient to his devotee who are sincere. So how that stage comes, so he's just saying to try to become Krishna conscious. Then you will be then practically one can advance. And one who can advance is the one who is not disturbed by all these external changes of the material world, not only of the body. So one who wants to advance in spiritual life is not agitated by any of the external changes or sudden mishaps in the life. It's like a person who goes higher, they understand that they are simply external. So whatever is happening in this world is simply external. Our existence, even our present existence, is a dream. So just like at night, we dream at night, we create so many dreams. But when we wake up, we know that it was a dream. But in the actual reality, we are also dreaming while we are awake as well. This is also a world of illusion. It's called gross dreaming. And we need to come out of this illusion. So subtle illusion is done on the mind, intelligence, and body level. But the gross dream or the gross illusion is done on the action of these five elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So understanding that these elements don't, these elements are linked to the gross will is going to help us to come beyond it. So in the night, we have the night dream. And then when we wake up, we think we are awake. But actually, we have entered another dream, as we are saying, gross dreaming. So how do we come out of it? So even Gaurachandra is saying, Jeev jago, Gaurachandra bole. Wake up from this dream. So why he's saying even people who are not sleeping at night? So because this whole world, our existence is like a dream. Krishna also mentions in this, around this context in Bhagavad Gita, या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यं जागृति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि स निशा पश्यतो मुनिम्. So he is saying that what is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all being is night for the introspective sage. So basically, when we understand that we need to come to the spiritual platform, that's when we have woken up from this gross dreaming. We have understood that this is temporary, this is illusion, and we need to progress more towards the higher purpose. And that's where we take shelter of the holy name, of that higher sound of the Bhagavatam, where we can connect to Krishna and wake up from this illusion. where our, this dreaming condition can be resolved. I would just like to stop there. If anybody have any comments, questions, or corrections, please let me know.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam.
Dhanvat Pranam, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for making an understanding of the flattery words so as we understand in a normal ways or general way. It is beyond our perception. As you started with the three types of flattering attitude, which is romantic, political, and spiritual. It's really important to understand the language of Bhagavatam, how important it is, not just like an ordinary language. You need to understand the depth, and you try to explain those things. The sound is so important. The way you pronounce it, the way you express it all comes from the heart, and it influences the listener. Sorry, and also the preachers. Both way they are get affected, but in a hearty way, not like a uh, physical relationship. As you mentioned, that the example of laptop, the sound, it doesn't relate to the object itself. But if we see in the language of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, it directly connects to the object itself. So how important is the sound vibration of the words? Each and every words of Bhagavatam has a meaningful relationship with the Supreme. That's sorry. So when he chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it directly connects to the Lord, not like ordinary sounds, which doesn't have any relation with the person speaking to. If we see in the general meeting how people are just chit-chatting with each other, because that speaking are the words thrown from the speaker, and there is no relation to the person through their heart, and that's why it doesn't connect. People are chit-chatting, lot of sound, but when there is a spiritual meeting, you see that the sound is the atmosphere is very pin drop silence. Why? Because it is preaching to the heart. So that sound gives the impact on the heart itself. So each and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam is to be considered superior or para, not like the ordinary words. It's so important for all of us to understand. Yeah, as like as you mentioned about the sound of mridanga, when I play it, it doesn't make any sense. But an expert plays it, it has a meaning. So everything is spiritual in context to this Bhagavatam words and speech, and how it pricks the heart of the devotee, heart of the listeners. And that is what actually the meaning is. This flattering is not the word we just flatter normally. It has very deep meaning in it. And and we understand Maharaja Agnida is not a person like us, is a very superior person and the son of Priyabrata. And we know Priyabrata who he is and in one's dynasty is coming from. So we need to understand the depth of these flattering words in a different angle. And it is a spiritual flattery, not an ordinary flattery. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Anybody else like to give a comment or reflection? We still got a few minutes. So it doesn't seem to be Mataji, so we'll end here. Thank you for your very wonderful class. Pancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhasya
Bhagavato,
Kripa
Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo,
नमो नमः
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय,
जय
हरे कृष्ण
Yes,
गंगा
Ananglata
माता जी की
Dasi
जय,
जय
शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि
Hari
हरि
Hari
बोल।
Bol.
Praise to assemble devotees. Hare
Hare
Krishna. Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
थैंक यू माता जी हरे कृष्ण